They remember me as a story, a name pressed into bronze, a clever king, the mind behind a wooden monster that ended a city. They remember the trick. They do not remember the man. Let the world keep the legend. Tonight the fire is warm and the shadows are long. There is no need for speeches here. Just the crackle of wood and a voice that has forgotten how to command. My hands shake when I feed the fire. Smoke stings my eyes more than it used to. The sea has taken most of my friends. Time has taken the rest. What remains? A shield that has forgotten the weight of bronze, hands that still flinch at sudden noises, and a story people think they know. They think Troy was the beginning. It wasn't. It was the bill. The debt coming due for choices I made long before the first arrow fell. Before I was a legend, I was a husband. Before I was Odysseus of the many ways, I was just a man with calloused hands, fixing a broken fence on a small island that smelled of olives and sheep. Ithaca was never a rich kingdom. We had no gilded palaces, no towering walls. Our strength was not in stone, but in stubbornness, weaving hands, rough fishermen, hills that broke invaders' ankles before swords ever met. I should have been content. I had a wife who could turn silence into warmth. Penelope. She did not worship me. She did something far more dangerous. She saw me. She saw the restless animal in my chest, the one that wanted to outthink everyone in every room, the one that smelled the word impossible and took it as a challenge. She loved me anyway. Then Telemachus was born, tiny, angry, loud, wrapped in cloth and a future I did not deserve. For one brief season of my life, I believed I could outwit the world in a different way, by staying, by being the man I had promised to be, instead of the one the songs would later sculpt. Then the winds changed. Messengers arrived, not traitors, not shipwrecked sailors. Kings, men whose names would one day be carved beside mine. Men summoned by an oath. Once in a moment of pride and wine and youth, I spoke a sentence that chained me to a war. Helen of Sparta, beauty sharpened into politics. Suitors from every corner of Greece, each one dangerous, each one proud. Her father feared civil war more than he loved his daughter's smile. So I, Odysseus of Ithaca, offered a solution. Let them all swear, I said, to defend the man she chooses, not for love, for stability, an oath to protect the husband, whoever he might be, against any who would try to take her. It was clever. It kept the men from each other's throats. I did not see the trap I'd laid for myself. Years later, when Paris stole Helen to Troy, that harmless idea turned into a noose. A stolen queen, an outraged Sparta, Agamemnon calling banners, waving the very oath I had shaped. Odysseus, they said, you made us swear. You are bound by your own cleverness. They called it duty, I called it a sentence. I did not want to go to war. That is the part the songs forget. I had seen enough of men to know what 10 years of anger would do, what it would turn us into, what it would cost the ones who never raised a sword. So when they came for me, when Agamemnon's ships darkened my shore, I tried one last trick. I pretended to be mad. You would have laughed to see it. The mighty Odysseus, king of Ithaca, harnessing an ox and a donkey to the same plow, sowing salt into his own fields, mumbling nonsense to the wind. Telemachus watched from his mother's arms, confused. Penelope watched from the doorway, not confused at all. Her eyes said it clearly. Please let this work, but the gods do not make it easy for men like me. Agamemnon had not come alone. He brought Palamedes, a man almost as dangerous as I was because he knew how I thought. He did not argue, did not test my words. He simply took my infant son from Penelope's arms and laid him on the ground in front of my crooked plow. I remember the sound Penelope made. It was not a word, just raw fear torn out of her. I remember the weight of the reins in my hands, the trembling of the animals, the crunch of soil under the blade as it dragged closer to my boy. Madmen do not swerve for children. Kings do. I pulled the plow aside before the blade could touch him. I fell to my knees. The act was over. Palamedes nodded, satisfied. He had proved I was sane. He had no idea what else he had done. In that moment, as the salt scattered over wasted earth, I understood. I could no longer pretend to be less than I was to escape what I had set in motion. I rose, kissed my son's head, held Penelope longer than a king should in front of other kings, and walked toward the ships. Duty, they called it. It felt more like exile. Troy was not a single battle. Troy was a slow poison. Songs compress it into moments, into shining duels and roaring speeches. The truth is less flattering. We waited, we bled, we rotted under the sun. Season after season, boys became men and men became ghosts, waiting to happen. And then there was Achilles. They say he was born of a goddess. They say his mother dipped him in immortal waters, leaving one small weakness. I do not care about those stories. I remember something else. I remember a young man at the edge of the camp, always just ahead of us. He smiled like danger was a game. He moved like a rumor and laughed as if death had forgotten his name. A blade given legs. The first time I saw him charge, I understood why poets fall in love with violence. He was terrible and beautiful, like a storm seen from far away. He did not just kill men, he bent the idea of battle around himself. Where he went, formations broke, lines dissolved, courage crumbled. He was everything the songs say he was, and he was cursed long before any arrow found him. Because deep down, behind the war cries, behind the armor, I saw it in him. He wanted it, the glory, the short, bright life, the kind that leaves a legend so large no one remembers the man it devoured to exist. We talked sometimes, he and I, two men too close to their own myths. I could have stayed, he told me once, lived a long life forgotten, children, grandchildren, silence. Instead, I asked. He smiled. You're here, aren't you? We chose the same God, memory. He was wrong, of course. I did not choose memory. I chose an idea I thought I could control. The gods are not the only ones who punish pride. The world does too. He did not die in glory the way the poets pretend. He died like so many others, fast, unseen, swallowed by the noise. We like to pretend war is a series of great moments. A charge, a speech, a victory. Most of Troy was nothing like that. Most of Troy was mud and boredom and the smell of infected wounds under canvas. Men trained, boasted, stole and killed time in ways they would later pretend were honor. We raided surrounding lands. We cut supply lines. We sent envoys and threats and offers. We watched children grow up in the shadow of ships pulled onto a foreign shore. Sometimes we tried to end it with words. I remember standing before Troy's walls, offering terms, appealing to reason. The wind carried my voice up. The walls carried their pride down. They did not listen. We did not leave. Years passed. Each king had his own reason for staying. Pride, politics, honor. None of those words saved the men who bled for them. As the siege dragged on, I felt something inside me harden. Compassion bends under the weight of repetition. The first time you see a boy die, you dream of it for weeks. The 100th time you mark the loss, adjust the line, and keep talking about strategy. That is how war wins even before the last city falls. Not by killing your body, by eroding your boundaries. So when the idea came, when the shape of it formed in my mind, I did not ask if it was right. I only asked if it would work.